is Tom Gregory with late news headlines, sports, and the weather from the Channel 5 newsroom. The international headlines. Officials are cautioning against expecting any breakthroughs when President Reagan meets this morning with Soviet Foreign Minister Gromyko. But the White House says Mr. Reagan will propose some ideas toward improving superpower relations, and it will take Moscow a while to react. It's hoped by the administration that the meeting will help set the stage for a resumption next year of arms control talks. Secretary of State George Shultz and National Security Advisor Robert McFarlane are to sit in on President Reagan's meeting with Soviet Foreign Minister Gromyko. Aides say the president boned up for his first meeting with a senior Soviet official, in part by reading a number of books on the Soviet Union. The Reagan-Gromyko meeting will come one day after the Soviet diplomat delivered what Secretary of State Shultz terms a sad and disappointing speech. Gromyko voiced skepticism at the UN that Mr. Reagan really wants improved Soviet-American relations. But one State Department official says the Soviets are privately more encouraging than they have been in public. East and West are at the bargaining table on at least one front. Both sides have resumed talks in Vienna on reducing NATO and Warsaw Pact troop levels after the summer recess. But one sobering fact about the negotiations is that they've been going on for nearly 11 years with little progress. 6 convicted guerrillas and 8 guards were injured in a fight between rival Protestant and Roman Catholic inmates at Maze Prison in Belfast, Northern Ireland. British authorities tightened prison security today following the fight on Thursday, according to a spokesman for the Northern Ireland office. Nationally, these top stories. The head of the United Mine Workers Union says the organization will keep on pushing to get its nearly 50,000 laid-off members back to work. Richard Trumka spoke after announcing that union members are voting overwhelmingly to accept a new contract with the soft coal industry, the first contract agreed upon in 20 years without a strike. Ellsworth Bunker, whose diplomatic career spanned 35 years and 7 presidents, is dead at the age of 90. Bunker died Thursday at a hospital in Vermont. He was the U.S. ambassador to South Vietnam during the last part of the war. Earlier this year, when asked to assess U.S. involvement in Vietnam, Bunker called it a great tragedy. A family spokesman says he died of complications resulting from a viral infection. While the race for the presidency is this year's big political story, 435 seats in the House of Representatives also will be up for grabs on Election Day. And a new poll for Business Week magazine shows Mr. Reagan's big lead over Mondale is not providing long coattails to help Republicans gain control of the House. 60% of the respondents to the poll say the nation would be worse off if the GOP gained control of the House. The director of the CIA during the Carter administration says President Reagan has done more to hurt the agency than any president in history. Retired Admiral Stansfield Turner charged that Mr. Reagan has politicized the agency in response to the president's statement earlier this week that the U.S. intelligence network was nearly destroyed before Reagan took office. A veteran CIA agent says he resigned from the agency last spring because of political pressure within the agency. The former coordinator of a study of conditions in a major Latin American country says agency director William Casey pressured him to rewrite the analysis to support Reagan administration policies. The financially troubled New Orleans World's Fair is coming under government scrutiny. A federal prosecutor says the government is investigating the fair's dealings with contractors and with companies that plan to buy buildings or materials after the fair closes in November. For the past 2 months, the government's main forecasting gauge on the economy was down sharply. Some analysts attribute that to a temporary lull, while others fear it could signal a period of much slower economic growth, if not a recession. Americans will get a clearer picture in the morning with the release of the index of leading economic indicators for August. Treasury Secretary Donald Regan sees the likelihood of a drop in interest rates in the coming months. His optimism comes as the banking industry nudged down the prime rate from 13 to 12.75%. One private economist, though, fears the prime rate will be on the rise again next year. A measure aimed in part at reaffirming federal anti-discrimination statutes has moved closer to becoming law. The civil rights legislation took a big step when the Senate agreed to consider it as an amendment to an emergency spending bill. The measure would force recipients of federal money to obey laws protecting women, the aged, the handicapped, and minorities, even if the funds reach only one portion of an organization. Forecasters are reassuring Floridians that they won't have to worry about any major damage from Tropical Storm Isidore. The ninth named storm of the season moved across the Sunshine State Thursday, and while there's no great destruction reported, there are heavy rains and winds up to 50 miles an hour. These local items. Actor Richard Gere has denied charges that he assaulted a Manhattan garage attendant, harassed the man for months, and used foul and abusive language. Gere pleaded innocent to assault and harassment charges in Manhattan Criminal Court Thursday and was released in his own recognizance by Judge Holt Meyer. A hearing was set for October 25th. When New York Telephone Company raised the cost of making a coin telephone call to 25 cents, they also raised the consciousness of phone thieves who eyed an increased profit. The result? An increase of 550% in Manhattan payphone theft since June, according to officials. In Manhattan, where a fifth of the 150,000 coin phones in the state are concentrated, attempted thefts ballooned to over 1,000 in August and September, compared to 180 in June, the last month of the 10-cent call. 2 people were shot by a pellet gun or small-caliber weapon in Midtown Manhattan Thursday night in what police believe were random drive-by shootings by 4 men in a small black car. Neither of the victims was seriously injured, said a police spokesman. At 10:10 p.m., the driver of a horse-drawn cab was shot in the leg by a pellet at Central Park West at 59th Street. 10 minutes later, a 23-year-old woman was shot in the leg at 38th Street and 11th Avenue. She was taken to St. Vincent's Hospital and was in good condition. The City Council Committee on Standards and Ethics has disagreed with the Department of Investigation finding that Councilman Robert J. Dreyfus did not maintain proper detachment from a law firm which had dealings with the city. The Committee on Standards and Ethics issued a report Wednesday concluding that Dreyfus, Democrat of Manhattan, had not violated the rules of the council or the city charter. Now checking sports. In American League Baseball, the Yankees down Detroit 2-1. Texas took California by the same score, 2-1. Boston overtook Baltimore 4-3. The Indians over the Twins 4-3, and the Mariners hammered out a 7-2 win over the White Sox. In the only National League action, Montreal outslugged St. Louis 6-3, and the Reds finally got by Atlanta 2-1 in 10. Now the weather. Current temperature reading at 46 degrees, humidity 86%, barometer 30.37 inches, and it's steady. Cloudy and chilly overnight is the official word, with intermittent periods of rain and drizzle, low in the low to mid-40s. Later today, overcast and raw, with periods of rain, high only in the mid to upper 50s. Still cloudy tonight, with scattered rains ending late, low 45 to 50. Repeating the current temperature reading, 46 degrees. And there you have the late news headlines, sports, and weather from the Channel 5 newsroom. Good morning, Tom Gregory reporting.